Good morning, everyone. I'm Or, and I'm part of the Chrome OS security product team. And today I'll tell you about Chrome OS security for education. Cybersecurity is a primary concern for everyone these days. Schools, companies, kids, adults, everyone have their cybersecurity concerns. Google keeps more people safe online than any other company in the world by blocking malware, phishing attempts, spam messages, and potential cyber attacks. We are protecting billions of people from potential cyber attacks every day. I don't think I'll be surprising anyone when I tell you that security and privacy are the top priority for Google, as it was recently announced that Google will invest $10 billion in security. If you think about security, using Google products is a no-brainer. But in the past couple of years, we see increase in cybersecurity attacks. And more specifically, we see increase in cybersecurity attacks against schools. In 2020, the FBI published a warning that EDU is now a target for cyber actors. After this warning, we saw increased number of attacks on EDU, specifically ransomware attacks. One of the attackers demanded $40 million from a school district, and the cost of recovering from a ransomware attack in the educational sector is the highest. But then came the moment when I realized how important is the work we are doing here at Google and Chrome OS. The Baltimore County Public School was attacked by a ransomware, and in a message to their student and staff, they asked them not to use Windows devices, but they could still safely use their Chromebooks and their Google accounts, as those were not impacted by the ransomware. And in fact, that's still the case today. There are still 0 ransomware attacks reported on Chrome OS. How does Chromebooks achieve this level of security? Let's talk about how we design and build every Chromebook to meet our security bar. A Chromebook is a device that is designed and built with security in mind. Every layer is carefully built to make sure that the users are safe. Let's start with the first layer, the hardware. Every OEM, every company that builds a Chromebook is relying on a platform reference design that is made by Google. This design guarantees that all security requirements for Chromebooks are met. And it all starts with the Titan chip. The Titan chip is a security chip that is designed and made by Google to make sure every device is secure. Every Chromebook has this security chip. Whether it's the cheapest Chromebook or the most expensive one, they all have the same security chip inside the device. This security chip is responsible for protecting the device at all times when it does things like verified boot, protecting the user credentials, or manage the encryption keys of the device. Firmware is the connection between the hardware I just mentioned and the operating system itself. During the device boot, the firmware is responsible for verifying the software that is loaded, starting with verifying the kernel and the operating system, and making sure that it was not changed by a malware. Chrome OS has 2 instances of the operating system in separate partitions. So if the malware is impacting one of the partitions, the firmware will automatically switch and verify the other instance so it can securely boot. In order to achieve this level of security, the firmware for Chromebooks is built by Google. There are no BIOS updates you have to get from different vendors, and there are no third-party kernel drivers that you need to update all the time. And as a result, there are no rootkits on Chromebooks. Now, let's move to the next level in the stack, peripherals. Chrome OS is constantly updating and adding support for new technologies, such as USB 4 and Thunderbolt that were introduced last year. Since supporting all these new technologies increased the attack surface of Chrome OS, we constantly work on building new security mechanisms such as USB guard and PCIe guard to make sure that the devices are secure. Drivers are the software layer that runs on the device itself to connect the operating system with the peripheral device. So in order to protect the operating system, we make sure that every driver that is added to Chrome OS is reviewed and fuzzed as needed to increase the level of security. The operating system itself is designed to protect the user against a variety of attacks. Let me share a couple of the techniques we use to protect Chrome OS. The operating system is stored in a read-only partition while it's running. It means that malware cannot modify the operating system itself. Each process is protected from other processes and blocked from damaging other processes or the operating system itself. We achieve that by making sure that each process only gets the privileges it needs to operate, sorry, and that each process is running in a sandbox. The user data on Chromebooks is always encrypted, and we also enable memory encryption by default on all supported devices. Every Chromebook user has their data encrypted with their own key. It means that different users of the same device cannot access each other's data. All Chromebooks have cross-device policy. Oops. Something happened to my deck. Give me a second. Is it visible? Okay. Okay. Oh, I need to share my screen again. Sorry, I don't know what happened. Is this good? Okay, I assume everyone can see the slides now. Cool, thank you. All Chromebooks also have cross-device policy. That means that every device the user is using, even if they move from one device to another, will have the same policy for the user. Chrome browser is an integral part of every Chromebook, benefiting from the constant improvement in security of the browser itself and the new features. We're leveraging features like safe browsing, sandboxing of different tabs, site isolation. HTTPS is on by default on all Chrome browsers, and there are password alerts and many other security features that are being added all the time. With certificate enrollment and transparency, you can make sure that the devices are properly enrolled in the correct way and that the certificates are not being misused. Now, let's talk about managed device policies. Our admin console has more than 500 policies you can control. You can easily approve or block apps and extensions. Devices can be remotely disabled or completely wiped. Network and proxy configuration can be changed as needed. Ephemeral mode can be enabled. And this one is very useful because on shared devices like a school lab, it's easier to have ephemeral mode where the user is not leaving their data on the device. And the last policy I want to mention, and admins found this policy very useful in the past couple of years because kids couldn't go to school and pick up their devices. is zero-touch enrollment, where the device can be shipped directly to the end user and be enrolled. All the policies are instantly updated via the cloud. The moment you change it in the dashboard, it will update in the cloud and distribute to all the devices. And all the policies are signed and verified when they are sent to the device. Many of you use Android apps for Chrome OS, on Chrome OS, for educational purposes. Apps like Classroom. Chrome OS leverage Play Protect. Play Protect use server-side analysis to detect malware and remove it from the device as needed. You can always remotely uninstall malicious apps or decide to use allow list or block list for apps. And if you're worried about side loading of apps, it's completely blocked on Chrome OS. Every Chromebook comes with automatic update, always on, making sure that the latest and the most secure version of the operating system is running on the device. Chrome OS will update in the background without disrupting the user. In every Chromebook, there are 2 copies of the operating system. And while one copy is running and working, the other copy can be updated. And the device will automatically switch to the verified updated version the next time there's a reboot. Chrome OS updates are very frequent, and we are shipping OS updates every 4 weeks, and we ship critical updates as needed for the entire support lifetime of the device. Lastly, I want to talk about the power of default, secure by default. We believe security is not a luxury product. You shouldn't buy a pro version just to get disk encryption or pay premium for a security chip. All of those come in every Chromebook. Security features should be available and on by default. Whether it's disk encryption, security chips, which are the equivalent of TPMs on other platforms, sandboxing, verified boot, firewall, and all the other security mechanisms we use on Chrome OS, they're all on by default and shipped with every Chromebook. We make sure every Chromebook has all the security features all the time. If you want more information to hear about the latest security features on Chrome OS, please visit chromeenterprise.google/security. Thank you for listening. I think we have time for questions, if there were any questions. Okay, I see a question here about Chrome OS Flex. It's a great question. So we definitely built Chrome OS Flex to be secure. But the vertical integration we have with Chromebooks is giving us a lot more flexibility in building a device that is secure end-to-end. So the verified boot that we get on Chromebooks is something we cannot get on Chrome OS Flex. I definitely recommend, I personally installed Chrome OS Flex on all the older devices I have. I believe it's more secure than any other operating systems you can use on these devices, but it is not as secure as Chromebooks. So I recommend getting Chromebooks if you have to choose between, but when you buy a new device, I recommend you get a Chromebook and not a different device and convert it to Chrome OS Flex. Any other question? Let's see. Okay, I think there were no more questions. Oh. Okay. Thank you everyone for listening. I was happy to be here today. Thank you. Bye-bye.